Hello and welcome to day 20, and today I'll be talking about the necessity of no. So, as the parent of a 4-year-old, most of my day is spent being extremely cautious and wanting to make sure that I'm not taking any missteps in helping this particular human being grow into the world. Now, for the most part, we vibe well. I play with him. I get to tell him things that he's now only starting to learn, make sure that I'm answering the myriad of questions that he usually has throughout the day. But I do feel a lot of the time, whenever I have to make sure that I'm being as firm as possible when need be, it is something that doesn't come across a lot of the time. So, being someone who grew up in South Africa and having a certain idea of what to expect when parenting, not only from examples that my mother passed down to me, whether knowingly or unknowingly, but also examples that I've seen growing up in my culture, and now coming through to this side of the pond and having to reinvent that and deal with things in my own right. I do feel like I tend to be a little more, I'd say, firm when it comes to not necessarily hearing him out. And it's something I'm obviously working on, making sure that I can be able to be more efficient in as far as that's concerned. So oftentimes you'll hear him tell me that I'm either taking away his fun or I wish mommy was playing with me right now. And it's one of those things that I take in my stride because I understand that in that space, he is feeling comfortable and he is figuring out a way to be able to convey his emotions in the most effective way so that I can understand where he's coming from, which is important. And I found parallels of that in my journey when, in no uncertain terms, I did feel a lot of the time that my saying no to myself in the journey was almost, I'd say, very similar to dealing with a toddler, in the sense that here was this unbridled part of myself that felt like it was already established, it already knew what it was doing and where it was going. But for the bulk of my journey thus far, it has been me having to find ways in which I can be able to say no most effectively, whether it is removing myself from situations where I would now need to go back to leaning into something that would be a masking agent, or being able to see myself in a different light and saying no to how I would be thinking, or having those internal conversations with myself, and how necessary it is at the end of the day, whether it is dealing with a toddler or dealing with myself internally, that there has to be a time where I find the necessity to no longer just go with the wave of what is happening, but actually stand firm and be able to tell either myself or this soul that I love so much that, there is a line that we can't necessarily cross. And a lot of the time it's hard. A lot of the time it is a conversation that doesn't land as well as you might think. And contrary to popular belief, I don't feel like there's a one size fits all or a particular solution that will now be the be all and end all, and you don't have to have that conversation moving forward. I think it is a journey that you now figure out on yourself, whether it is increasing the ways or the subtle ways in which you are able to convey that message, or if you do need to be extremely firm. All of those kinds of nuances come through being able to stick in the moment, be present, and allow yourself to be able to understand that at times it won't necessarily be something that is easy off the tongue or lands as well as you might hope it does, but understanding that there will be times where you have to have a particular framework where you do need to say no, and you do need to have that bit of control for the good of the greater vision, not because you want to take any fun away, but because you understand that where you are going is far greater than you are at that moment. Hope that lands. Thank you for your time.